Hi folks, welcome to this week's episode of the Ask the Arb podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by our principal arboricultural consultant here at Rover, Peter Hayne. Hi folks, welcome back to the Ask the Arb podcast, where this week we have got a special guest, which is my senior... No, he's not actually anymore. He's the principal arboricultural consultant here at Rover. So welcome to the podcast, Peter. Tell us a little bit about your role at Rover, and then we can jump right into it, because people don't know what an arboricultural consultant is. And they certainly don't know what a principal consultant does.
No, I have these conversations with people all the time. Usually the first question is how to pronounce arboricultural. So it's everything to do with trees. A lot of what we do is related to planning applications. So we do a lot of reports for people who want to build things. And then our role is to ensure that the trees are respected through the design process, and then also protected through the actual construction process as well. So really, zooming right out on this, the point of our job is to make sure that the tree cover in the UK is hopefully increased over the decades, but certainly not lost. And the trees that we've got are obviously very important in terms of habitat and biodiversity and all those good things.
It's an interesting one. Obviously, we don't manage to get you on the podcast very often, and the reason for that is because you're based down in Cambridgeshire. So talk to us a little about this. This podcast tends to be the whole reason for it, and I know you're familiar with it, but for the listeners or anybody that's coming to us and finding us for the first time, the reason that we do this podcast is basically just to add value and to inform people. So just for the listeners, Rover is a nationwide company. So Peter actually isn't based in Inverness, where our HQ is. So whereabouts are you based, Peter?
Yeah, so I'm based in the flatlands of Cambridgeshire. It's the least wooded county in England, unfortunately. But most of our work is in London and the South East, so it's quite a good position to be in. I cover the sort of North home counties, and then obviously we have other consultants and surveyors in London and right across the South East and the whole country as well. I come up occasionally to head office just for like senior team meetings and staff training and all that kind of good stuff. Very occasionally I'll get out in the Highlands and do a tree survey as well with one of our team. Just more as a training exercise, but also it's nice to see some of the countryside. As well. It's a little perk of the job.
It's a little bit hillier than Cambridgeshire,
very
isn't
much
it?
so. Yeah, very much so. I'm in big sky country. Down there it's pretty much flat as far as the eye can see.
With lots of fast jets bombing around the
place. Yes. East Anglia's covered in wartime air bases. So
I've not spent a lot of time down that side of the country, really. When we were a much smaller company and I was running around all over the place, and Connor, my son, was involved in it as well then, I did the odd job in Cambridgeshire and out into East Anglia, but it's not a part of the world I know very well at all.
No.
And I think I went out to the coast once. I think I went on holiday with my girlfriend to Mablethorpe or somewhere. Horrendous like that. Apologies to anyone that's from Mablethorpe.
The North Norfolk coastline is absolutely lovely, the Southern coastline as well, but it's such a long way from anywhere. You get to where I am, which is kind of like the gateway to East Anglia, and then to get to the coast you've got another 2 hours. It's a big part of the country. Unless you've got a reason to be there, it's not somewhere you'd pass through. It's a bit like Inverness in that respect.
It's totally nuts how long it takes to get from. There's a really beautiful racetrack, isn't there, somewhere in Cambridgeshire? It's really hilly. Connor would know the name of it. I can't remember. We went there to watch motorbike racing.
Oh yeah.
And I stayed somewhere on the A1, M1 corridor, and in the morning, it won't take very long, and it was still like another hour and a half. Just crazy, crazy. In the last episode, I had a much younger guest on, which was my son James, and we were talking about listener questions and all that kind of good stuff, and tying it back to our sort of predictions for 2026. My finger is not as on the pulse as it used to be. What are the changes that are coming in the tree space, do you think, particularly in relation to planning applications in 2026?
Yeah, so everything's a bit up in the air in the planning system at the moment, obviously particularly in regard to ecology, which, while not my specific area of expertise, there's a lot of crossover. Obviously Rover, we offer both tree surveys and ecology surveys for planning, so our teams work together quite closely. But specifically on the tree side, there is an update coming to BS 5837, which is the British standard in relation to trees and development. So it covers every aspect of that, from design to demolition to construction. I'm not expecting any sort of ground shift or any seismic shift in the principles in BS 5837. But there will be some significant changes. Obviously, I studied the draft quite extensively last year. So there will be some significant changes. We're looking at potentially some larger root protection areas. We're looking at more protections for ancient and veteran trees, which can only be a good thing, again, for the tree population. But that's going to potentially present some challenges for developers with sites with those kind of trees on. So yeah, I'm not sure when the final version of that British standard will be released, but we'll be all over it on day one.
Because they were talking about 2025 originally, weren't they?
No, it's not out yet. And I checked the other day and there wasn't a release date. There might be now, but I'm not aware what that's going to be.
On our main YouTube channel, I did a predictions video that we sent out to our email list and everything just before Christmas, and we've pushed it a bit since Christmas. Obviously heavily weighted towards ecology and planning, infrastructure bill, BNG changes and all that kind of good stuff. And there was much noise and much concern and much worry about all of that, but we still don't have an implementation timeline on it. And I thought I need to talk about trees as well, and I had a look then and I could find nothing. They were actually talking about towards the end of 2026, I think.
Yeah.
So
everything moves at a glacial pace in that space, legislation. I think people see the headlines and they panic, but you know, even the minor changes to BNG are taking 6 or 7 months to roll out. So I don't think we're going to see any significant changes in local authority planning policy at an actual applicable level to your planning application. I'm not going to see changes for months, if not years.
And that's incredibly frustrating for people that are stuck in the process at the moment, because I know we've had our assessment team who are based downstairs have already had customers come into them going, actually, do we need to do this BNG thing now? I've heard this in the news, etc., etc., etc. And I did a little YouTube short on it. But the reality is, when you try and offer advice in that sector, it just comes across as you're trying to extract money from people, and it's not. We're trying to give them solid advice.
Absolutely.
If they pull out of doing their BNG assessment now, then all that's going to happen is it's just going to create more pain for them further down the road. So it's all good fun. So your role as principal arboricultural consultant, what does that look like? What does the kind of day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so a lot of my time is spent kind of managing the team. So we've got a really good team of surveyors and consultants based right across the UK. So my role really is to mentor those consultants as they come into the business, get them up to speed, and then I spend a lot of time doing technical reviews on reports and consultancy with some of our bigger clients as well, and just making sure that the kind of product we're delivering, those tree reports and the consultancy we deliver, is consistent and good value across the board. Occasionally get out on site. We do some sort of audits, quality checks with surveyors on sites as well. So it's always nice to get out of the office occasionally and on site, but that's becoming less and less these days. Yeah,
it's the trouble, isn't it? As your career progresses, 2025 was the year I spent I'm not really involved operationally at all anymore. I got involved with a few bat surveys last season, but that was about it, and that's just because of where it was and my technical expertise around camera systems and things like that. But it's a tricky one, isn't it, as you get older, because you go up in seniority, but then the fun bits of the job that actually got you into it in the first place. I can't remember the last time I touched a tree or climbed a tree. Well, it's been a long time since I climbed a tree, but
I was out with the microdrill last week at a big beech tree with quite a significant lean actually over a house. One of our surveyors spotted some Kretschmeria on that. It's a good catch because I went back with the microdrill and the client had sort of removed some soil around the base of the tree and there was no trace of those brackets at all. But unfortunately, the microdrill picked up on the decay in the stem, so that
push your finger through the tree.
No, not really. Obviously, with Kretschmeria, it's simultaneous rot. It's a brittle fracture. It doesn't necessarily show up as soft.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a difficult one to call, really. But sort of negotiated with the tree officer and we kind of agreed between us that was best course of action was to fell. Which again is not a decision we'd take lightly, but given the potential implications for failure on that tree, there wasn't really an alternative.
I turned up at a site in Manchester, it must have been about 7 or 8 years ago, and there was a linear feature of sycamores down the right-hand side of this property as you looked at the front of it. And there've been ground level alterations and changes and all that sort of stuff, which, as you know, is like key for crets. If there's any kind of ground change or whatever, sycamores don't really like that or tolerate it anyway. And they were relatively healthy in the crown, apart from the second one in the line. I thought there's something going on here. Anyway, I captured all the data for the 5837 survey, which for the listeners involves tape measures and measuring wheels and drones and all sorts of stuff. And then when I got to this second tree, there wasn't only crets, but there was other things going on with it as well. I don't know what they are. I can't remember. But I could literally stick my index finger into the tree, and it was a fairly windy day, and there was like no movement whatsoever in this tree, and I just thought,
it's a ticking time bomb. Isn't it?
And it took a while for me to convince the homeowners that they really needed to get this down ASAP. It was a big tree. It was about 800 or 900 millimeters DVA diameter, and it was 6 meters from the corner of their property. And the tree surgeons, in the end, they didn't climb it. They got a mobile elevating work platform in and took it down. It was horrendous. It's the worst I've ever seen in a residential situation. That's got to that point. You see like oak trees that fall apart within their own crown and stuff like that, but this was horrendous. I don't know how they hadn't spotted it or someone hadn't spotted it, but there we go.
It's funny how long those trees will just stand sometimes. I think obviously we tend to play it very safe as arboricultural consultants with managing tree risk, but actually a lot of those trees would stand for a lot longer, but we can't predict which ones will and which ones won't. So in those kind of high risk settings you can't take chances.
No.
But there's a line of dead trees that I walk past with the dog nearly every day, and they've been standing dead for 7 or 8 years, and one of them came down over Christmas. I just wanted to have a look out of sort of professional interest, and the root system was, I would say, 90% gone, just decayed, and what had actually come out of the ground was just like a socket, really. You look at those kind of trees, you just wonder how it stood for so long.
It's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
They are incredibly robust. There's a line of veteran oak and ash trees near. Well, they're verging on veteran, but they're very, very old near me on the edge of a field. So they've been constantly ploughed down one side, root damage, all that kind of good stuff. And the crowns are retrenching, dying back on all of them. Yeah. And then the storms hit them, and we get some pretty bad storms up here in the north of Scotland, and prevailing wind is from the south. But when it comes round to the north, northeast, northwest, everything gets battered, and it's full of snapped hanging branches all over the footpath. Nobody seems particularly interested in it. Again,
from the tree's perspective, snapped hanging branches in a storm is actually their mechanism for making sure the tree survives, as is the retrenchment. Interesting. There's some research that shows that root damage like that will actually stimulate new fibrous root mass. So it's not what I'd recommend.
No,
but it can actually be beneficial for the trees to get that sort of more aeration into the soil, stimulate some new root growth. Can sometimes be beneficial.
Yeah, it is crazy what they'll put up with, isn't it?
Absolutely.
In terms of so obviously quite recently in towards the tail end of 2025, we within our own company we realised that actually there's a lot more that we could do for our customers, and we released a new product called Rover Assured.
Yes.
Do you want to just talk us through that and how it relates to trees?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this kind of came, not blowing my own trumpet too much, but it kind of came out of the tree team. We had a need for our clients had a need really for managed tree surgery and also topographic surveys. So in an ideal scenario, if we're going out to do a survey for planning, a BS 5837 survey, we would already have a recent topo with key site features plotted, so not only the trees but other site features like hard landscaping and buildings, because those things can have an impact on tree root morphology. Obviously, if you've got a building with deep foundations, that's a really key data point to have as part of the consultancy process for producing a report for planning. So for years and years, we've been saying to clients, you really ought to have a topo for this site. But a lot of the time we end up plotting onto just a map tile, which doesn't have that level of detail on. So what we start saying to people now is, you really need a topo for this site. Would you just like us to go and get you one? Because nobody wants to have to do the extra work to go and commission topos, and if you don't have a relationship with a topo surveyor and you don't know what you're asking for, that it's another bar to getting the best possible product. So what we've done is developed a working relationship with a few different companies now who do our topographic surveys, and they're producing top-notch survey data for us. And then obviously we can go in afterwards and plot our tree data onto those topographic surveys, and that means the customer's getting the best possible products, the best possible plans and data.
For years and years and years, my belief was, particularly around contracting and things like that, is that if you're going and doing a tree safety survey, the same company shouldn't be doing the tree surgery work, because it's a conflict of interest. But I think once you're established, once you've got the reviews, once people can see that you've got the client's best interests at heart, absolutely. I think there's a lot of value in just being able to offer the customer a one-stop shop, because that's what they want at the end of the day. If they've got a good relationship with you, they just want to get in, get out, get the surveys they need, and move on. We have, just as we come to the end of this, we have a little feature, and I'm looking at the deck because I can never remember which button to press, but I'm going to press this, and I haven't got my headphones on, so this could go terribly wrong. But what we're going to do is we'll take one of our planning permission panic line questions. So here we go. We love a jingle here.
You've got the questions, the planning system's a nightmare. We have got the answers. Welcome to the planning permission panic line.
Yes, folks, it's planning permission panic line. So what we've got here, I don't know whether you've listened recently, but some of the jingles are absolutely horrendous. Kean designed them and produced them, so it's his fault. It's his fault. He didn't. They're all mine. So we've got a question in here from Sarah, who is an architect. She doesn't say where she's based or where she's come from. This came to me on LinkedIn, and it says, what happens if my tree protection measures are ignored? Now, I don't know whether she means whether she ignores them or whether the contractors ignore them. Yes. But I guess high-level overview of tree protection measures, really, I guess. Why they're there, absolutely. What they're for, and what happens if you don't do it properly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I guess conversations we have with clients all the time around tree protection, because we like to get involved with these projects from a very early stage, i.e., even before the design process is fully kicked off, and get the tree data involved in that design process, so that again the trees can be sort of considered from the start. But that means that we're potentially involved in these projects sometimes for years. It could be 2 or 3 years that we work on a project for. And ultimately what this is about is making sure that the trees are protected and respected during the construction process. And what that really looks like on site is making sure that they're fenced out of the construction area. Building work's very hard on trees. It can potentially be very damaging. So obviously things like direct physical damage to trees from building work, so either above ground in the canopy or below ground to their roots. But then there's also sort of indirect things as well, like cement is actually really toxic to tree roots. It contains a lot of chemicals that are very harmful. So if somebody's tipping out the mixer onto the tree roots, then that's potentially going to cause a problem in future years. So what we try and do is put really solid Harris fencing around the trees and around their root protection areas as well, which can be a much bigger space than people think. Tree roots obviously spread a long way, even outside of the canopy spread. So really solid Harris fencing is the sort of bedrock of tree protection on sites, and then education as well, because if no one on site knows what that fencing's for, then it will get ignored. Somebody will just take it down and they'll move into that space. Space is always at a premium on construction sites.
Yes.
We understand that, and there are ways that we can help with this as well. So putting site cabins inside a root protection area can be a really good solution on a site that's short on space. Obviously using the correct ground protection boarding and that sort of thing to make sure the soil isn't compacted. But yeah, if the tree protection is ignored by the contractor on site, then that creates a whole plethora of problems. If the trees have got statutory protection, if you're in a conservation area, or you've got TPO on the site, then potentially the local authority can look to prosecute the person or company that did that damage. So yeah, it's something we take very seriously. And as with everything, our ethos on this is to inform and educate. Our role is to help the architect get to where they need to be with the planning, and then help the contractor get to where they need to be with the tree protection, and understand why they need to put it in and why it's important. Because if you don't do that, if you miss that step out, then it does get ignored. Let's face it. We've all seen it on construction sites.
Yeah.
Where the tree protection fencing's been taken down after day one, and then that space is occupied.
So there you go, Sarah. Do it and do it, do it and do it properly. I have got a question for you, which we'll use to wrap up. So there's a lot of talk at the moment about AI and artificial intelligence and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And there's a few people that I sort of follow online and all this kind of stuff, and they say, plumbers are safe, electricians are safe, all that kind of stuff. Is your sector safe from AI? How do you think it's going to disrupt arboricultural consultancy, if it is at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So we see AI as just another tool. It's a useful tool if it's used in the right way. If it's used ignorantly, then it can be very damaging. I've certainly seen people try to use tools like ChatGPT to write their own tree reports, and as we all know, the output you get from them is only as good as the information that you put in. Yeah. So if you go out to site and you don't understand how to take a DBH measurement, for instance, then no AI tool in the world is going to produce a good root protection area calculation for you. If you can't identify tree species on site, there are AI tools that can help with that as well, but they don't work well in winter on deciduous trees. If you've got a nice leaf, there's a plant ID tool online that will probably identify it for you. But even those, they'll probably give you 5 different species to choose from. If you don't know, then you're not going to get those details right. So AI, it's here to stay, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is a useful tool. There are things that we can use it for in our business as well, but without that level of specialist knowledge, you're not going to get any sensible output out of any AI.
Homeowner tree reports from Google Street View are a while away.
A long way off. Thankfully.
Dear. Oh well. Peter, thanks for coming on. Always good to chat. I think this is your 3rd appearance on the podcast. Yeah. So you're a veteran now. Thanks a lot for coming on, and we'll get you back on in the future. And if anybody's listening to the podcast and they want to get in contact with Peter, or they want to have a chat with him about their tree issues, their planning applications, maybe some tree safety issues or anything like that, how's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so if you're new to Rover, the best way is to email in help@rover. If you need to speak to me, I've got a calendar booking link. You can just go online and pick a time to suit yourself.
We'll put that in the description. And,
yes, absolutely.
No spamming him. Perfect. Thanks a lot, Peter, and we'll speak to you soon.